What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video from Wooded Rancher Productions and Volunteer Values. Recently, Wilbur and Babe, the pigs, were slaughtered in order for meat. And Red is going to be putting up homemade bacon. And so we're going to show you our process and how that works. So Red is going to explain what you need in order to do this at home. It's not really a super difficult process. We're learning as we go, but take it away, Red. What do we need?
Yeah, so this really is not a overly complicated process. It can be if you make it, but it doesn't have to be. It is literally just letting salt and sugar do its work. We've processed our own bacon before. We've made our own homemade bacon. And the processor, we asked them if they would just keep the slabs whole and not slice them like they usually do. And so they accommodated us on that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take these slabs and we are going to cut them in half and cure them. And that takes about a week. It's just a process of basically salt and sugar and 7 days in the refrigerator. And then normally what we've done is we have followed that same process, but then I have thrown it in the smoker and smoked it until I think it's 150 something degrees internal temperature, and then you can process it. So this method that we're about to do today is different. It's just skipping the smoking process, but we've heard a lot of good reviews about it, and so we're just wanting to give it a try.
So the cut of meat is what, the pork belly?
It's the pork belly.
Okay, because some people, myself included, take bacon for granted and you don't know exactly what you're eating, but it's the belly of the pig. And these pigs were killed when?
We took them to the butcher last Friday, and then they killed them Friday, and then they had the meat back to us on Tuesday. So we've had the meat for 4 days.
So this has been in the refrigerator, but I'm sure it was frozen?
No.
Okay. So
you can process, so you can still process your own bacon even if you freeze it, but we just prefer not to freeze it, then have to thaw it out, and it just kind of takes away some of the, I don't want to say freshness, but
sure.
But it's been packaged and it's not going to hurt anything.
Okay.
But in some cases, depending on your climate of where you live, after you do this curing process, you can leave your slabs of bacon after they've been cured. Is you can actually leave them out and not have to refrigerate. But that really does depend on the climate you live in. If you live in a really dry climate like low humidity, if it's the wintertime, then we know folks that just leave it hanging in their kitchen off meat hooks. But unfortunately, we can't do that here because even in our wintertime, we still get days that are 70 degrees and humidity is somewhat high. But
joys of East Tennessee. The joke is if you don't like the weather, stick around for a few days, it'll change.
It'll change for sure.
Walk us through the process so we can get this back to the Can you grab one?
If you've not ever seen a pork belly, it is something to behold. So this is off one pig, and there are two of these. There's another one down here in the box. But the pork belly is also attached to the short ribs on a pig.
That looks like Wilbur. Actually, turn it around.
No, it's Babe.
Is it?
Babe had it stitched to him. He always was laying in his own muck. So that's the skin side, but the skin is not on there anymore. I did have them take the skin off. But you can do this one or two ways. You can leave the skin on, or you can take the skin off. A lot of people like the skin method, but we just prefer not to. But we have been talking about doing it next time with just leaving skin on, which is basically just scraping all the hair off and then cleaning it, and that will. I just prefer the skin off as my preferred method.
When you raise your own pigs or beef or whatever, you see what they do on a daily basis, and there are some things that you just like, nope, we're good.
I'm good. I'll pass. And that's salt we got. That kind of salt. Let's just go ahead and get rid of this whole box. Gosh. If you've never touched pig meat in large quantities, it is slippery. If I had to take a guess on how much these weigh, that's probably a good 20 to 25 pounds per slab. So, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna cure these in salt and sugar, and then we will lay them out on these wire racks inside the refrigerator. And what will happen is the salt and sugar will remove any of the bad bacteria that is in it, but it will also, the salt will draw the moisture out. And so instead of just laying them directly down on these baking sheets, we put them on racks. All right, I'm gonna keep talking. Just don't bang around. So one thing why John mixes our batch of salt and sugar, we just do a 50-50 mix. We do, per 1 cup of salt, we do 1 cup of sugar. And on the salt, it is important that you don't do, you can't just use any type of salt. It's gotta be a salt that can be used in a curing. And we like pink Himalayan salt. That's the salt that we use for this. But as far as the coarse of salt, this is where it gets kind of important, where you don't use too fine of a coarse. I think the different courses are fine, medium, and large. And we go in we fall right in the middle of the medium. So if you use too fine of a grain of salt, then you run the risk of your meat becoming too salty. But if you do too large of a course of salt, then you run the risk of your salt not penetrating into some of these hard to get areas, and it not getting enough salt down in the meat, and it just not curing properly. But like I said, we just like to fall in that medium range. One thing you'll notice though, if your curing process did not work, like if you used too large of a grain of salt, and you'll notice it didn't work, because then your meat will have a stench to it, and then you'll know that it failed, and you'll either have to start over and go purchase more meat, because you can buy these from a local butcher. A lot of times you can just buy a whole slab. They're probably not this large, because these are a little larger than normal, because our pigs were, one of them was over 500 pounds and one of them was close to it. But I think the average weight, the sweet spot people like to say, is about 300 to 350 pounds per pig. But we just let ours get a little bit bigger, which is fine. It doesn't really affect anything. But all I have to say, you will notice if your curing process didn't work, it'll stink. So I'm gonna just cut this slab in half, because it makes it more manageable. And it does, on pork especially, it does help if your meat is cold, because it cuts a lot easier and it's easier to handle. This is what a slab of bacon looks like.
Very nice.
But when you go to cut your bacon, so after once everything is cured, what we'll do is when we go to slice this, before we put it in vacuum seal bags and then throw it in the freezer, when you cut, you want to make sure that you cut against the grain of the meat, not with it, because then your bacon won't turn out right. So we will apply this real liberal on here. And it's also real important to make sure before you do this, that you check to make sure you don't have any flaps of meat that you can't get salt up under. The butcher did a pretty good job on making sure this is kind of a flat cut. Don't worry about over salting it. If you use the right course of salt, then you should be good. Because what I'm gonna do here in a second is I'm gonna turn this thing up on its end, and anything that falls off is fine, and whatever sticks to it will be the right amount. But you just want to coat top, the sides, like you just want to get a good healthy amount on there, and just kind of poke around on the edges to make sure that you don't have any places that are missing, because the sides are kind of hard to apply to. But if you get a good pile kind of going under it, you just kind of sweep it around on a tray, you can kind of scoop it back up on it and it'll stick. Now I'm going to flip it over and do the same. So now that we've got that done, we're gonna finish the other three, and then we'll talk some more after we're done.
So that took roughly 30 minutes max, but we were also filming and talking and yada 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 yada. So we've got everything salted and it's sitting here on the racks, and you can see that the salt is already starting to pull some moisture out. So Red and his wife, they will check it every single day. These will go directly into the refrigerator. They'll check it every day, and they'll need to take these trays and drain the liquid out for 7 days. And then after that, they'll probably slice it, cut it, put it in the freezer, or however they're gonna do it. But overall, this is a pretty quick process. So we'll do an update in the future on what these look like, because they will have a different color. They will shrink because there's no moisture in them. But we will make sure to post that. If you're unfamiliar or didn't know that we had pigs, feel free to, I'll drop a link in the description, but check out one of our other videos where we showed, and while we were waiting on the pigs to grow, how we use the pigs for land management. But we appreciate your support and watching this video. Action!
I thought you were about to lick it, so I was about to do the same thing.
Yeah, I'm not licking raw pork.
It's like, I want you to know.
You remember what I told T-Man? You ever had swine flu? I ain't trying to get it.
I have eaten raw bacon before on a dare.
Yeah. Slimy.
It was different.
I remember when we were little or younger, and we were doing what's that thing where you cook the meat on a skewer in the oil?
Oh, fondue.
Fondue, where we were doing fondue, and it was steak, but you like sliced up some steak, and somebody dared you to eat it, so you ate it, and then one of the other siblings told mom and dad, and you got in trouble.
I have a thing of eating raw meat.
Yeah,
I forgot all about that. I don't do it very often, but when I do, I make it count. But I've never gotten sick from it, but I don't make it a daily habit. Just only when I was younger and I got dared.
I was just gonna say, I mean, beef tartare is literally raw meat.
It is literally raw meat.
if it's steak, it's one thing. I think something has to do with like if it's ground beef, there's more bacteria in ground beef, and steak there's less bacteria. But I'm personally like I like my steaks rare, medium rare. You know, the wife is like a well done kind of gal. She does not.
She's an A1 sauce with her steak.
Not quite, but she is not down with any red or blood. Like
not me, man. Cut its horns off, wipe its rear, throw it on my plate.
Yeah, I mean, I prefer bath.
Maybe a little bit of a blowtorch seal. It's already starting to drip water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bet you could bottle that stuff up and sell it on the internet.
It's cologne. It's starting to already have a bacon smell.
Well, that's what... No, the professionals do it this way.
You get my pig's sake. I will say, when we took these guys to the butcher, as soon as they opened the trailer door, there were three guys unloading, and all three of them said, "Wow, these are some of the best looking pigs that we have seen in a long time." And I thought maybe they're just saying this, but then the lady came out of the cooler room, and then she saw the pigs, and she's like, "Wow, it has been a minute since we have seen these pigs." And she asked what we were doing, and like what we were doing to feed and what all they were consuming, and we just told her that we had been feeding them grain from a local grain company that has their own mixture of grain with higher proteins, and then we also were feeding them slop, and we also had them out in the woods, and so they were eating acorns and just all sorts of shrubbery, and they just kind of had full run. Now, I was worried that they maybe be tough. The meat might be tough just because of all the walking they were able to do. But I've actually been super impressed because this is the first time we've actually moved our pigs out into the woods. So,
well, and T-Man.
Oh man, that guy.
He has, I think, led the charge in feeding the pigs. And as you've seen in some previous videos where when Red and his family were on vacation, it's no small task. It's just feeding and making sure they have water. It's not that big a deal, but it's every day, twice a day.
I mean, that kid gets up at about 6 in the morning every day without being told. He just gets up, and he's 9, and he gets up and he goes and he tends to all his animals, and pigs were on that list, and he did it every morning. He did it every evening, and it was funny. After we dropped the pigs off, we were heading out of the butcher, and he goes, "I'm gonna kind of miss my pigs." And I will say we have noticed a difference in even the way that our trash smells, because now we are throwing leftover food in the trash because we have no pigs to eat the leftovers, and we have noticed, and just, you know, even just on the stupidest thing as trash having a smell to it. But anyway, we're gonna get more pigs coming in February. I am getting 10 to 12 piglets for feeder pigs. So if you're local and you know us and you are looking for a slab of pork or half a pork or a whole pork, let us know. And we're taking pre-orders now. I don't have pricing figured out quite yet, but it's going to be whatever the market, wherever the market is, because there's a market on price of meat and what butcher costs, because the butcher costs also fluctuate with the market. So whatever that is, that's how it's going to be priced.
Yep. Well, guys, I know we've already said bye once, but we have just thoroughly enjoyed, one, spending time together, learning a lot of things, but then also doing this YouTube thing. We're not making any money. We don't have any sponsors, although we're hopeful that someday in the future we will be making money and having some sponsors. But we just appreciate those friends that are consistently watching every single week, and then the new folks that are coming in and leaving comments, and good or bad, we appreciate it, just, you know, from a feedback perspective. But we're just thoroughly enjoying ourselves. So it's been a busy season. We haven't been able to upload a video, but things are just crazy right now because both of our full-time jobs, this is peak season, and it'll slow down in the winter, and then we'll have more opportunity to goof off and do more videos and just give you a glimpse of how we operate.
I still goof off. I still make time to goof off.
Well, yeah, we just don't film it. But anyway, just give you a glimpse in what we're doing. We're not doing anything spectacular, but we enjoy it, and we hope that you enjoy watching it as well.
Peace.
Bye.